Hey, this is Jamie with Stonemaier Games. I am fortunate enough to be the publisher of a wonderful game called Wingspan, which is an engine building game about collecting birds on a player mat. And as I said, engine building. You're building this engine over the course of the game where you are improving your ability to take four core actions: to play birds, to gather food, to lay eggs, and to gain more bird cards in your hand. This game has been very successful for us, and I'm very happy that it's done so well for designer Elizabeth Hargrave. I'm showing you a box that's not exactly the real Wingspan box. This is a custom box that I had made for my collection. You might recognize more the Wingspan Oceania expansion, which we just released. Wingspan, the core game focuses on birds in North America. Then we have a European expansion, and then this one focuses on birds in Australia and New Zealand. A lot of people have played Wingspan. A lot of people own Wingspan more than any other game by Stonemaier Games. And so I wanted to create a list inspired by my coworker Alex had this idea of posting a list of games. If you love Wingspan, you are probably likely to like these games as well. I've selected this list based on the feedback of Alex, of our ambassadors, and my own opinions about what people like about Wingspan. And I've ordered the list partially with my bias of games that I really love, but largely due to like the top games on the list will be those that I think if you like Wingspan, you are very likely to like this other game that I recommend. Whereas the lower down on the list, maybe you'll go slightly down, slightly less likely to enjoy those games, but they're all wonderful games on this top 10 list. I do want to mention before I begin some honorable mentions. The first, I'm going to choose one other game from the Stonemaier Games collection. This is a game that I designed called Viticulture. And I don't put our games on the top 10 lists, but if you like Wingspan, I think you're pretty likely to also enjoy Viticulture in terms of the theme, the engine building, the art. I think I would recommend checking this out if you enjoy Wingspan from the Stonemaier Games collection. Alex recommended a few games: Cactus, Colorful, Praise, Lovelace and Babbage. Sorry, that's one game. Lovelace and Babbage. Tack, which is based on the world of the Name of the Wind novels. A game called Medium, and Evolution. I heard Evolution as well from a number of ambassadors. Our ambassadors also recommended games like Tokaido, Above and Below, Century Spice Road, Kanagawa, and Sagrada. Those are all great games, all viable honorable mentions. I haven't played the ones that Alex mentioned there, except for Evolution, but I have played the other ones that the ambassadors recommended, and I enjoy all of them. It was really tough to cut some of them from the top 10 list. So let's jump right into number 10, which is the smallest game on the list, Tussie Mussie, by Wingspan designer Elizabeth Hargrave. So I wanted to choose this one because if you like Wingspan because of Elizabeth Hargrave, and she is a wonderful person to work with, a very talented designer. This is my pick for another game that you might try out. You could also try her butterfly-themed game, Mariposas, which is also fantastic. I happen to just like how concise Tussie Mussie is. This is a game, and how beautiful it is. The art in this game is really beautiful. This is an I Cut, You Choose game where you have these flowers, and you're going to choose one of them to put face down in front of you and the other one to put face up, and you offer both of those flowers to another player at the table. The game tells you which player you need to offer it to. And you're doing that in the hopes that you get the better card for you and that the other player who doesn't get the card that's absolutely great for them, or maybe they do get the one that's right for them, and you're trying to score points from this array of flowers that you're gathering over the course of cutting and choosing. The cutting in this game is which card you put face down and which card you put face up. But it's just a beautiful, elegant game. It's very easy to learn and looks great on the table. And it's designed by Elizabeth Hargrave. So that's one game that I wanted to connect to Wingspan as part of this list. That's Tussie Mussie. At number 9 is my favorite version of a series of games called Azul. This is Azul Summer Pavilion. A lot of the games on the list, and I'll repeat this, but a lot of the games on the list are beautiful and have great table presence. I think that's one feature of Wingspan, and so I wanted to mention that in all of these games. Azul is also a very easy to learn game, like Wingspan. That's another commonality here. Beautiful, easy to learn. And in Azul, you are drafting these tiles. You're selecting these tokens and putting them on your player mat to form a beautiful array, a pavilion, a summer pavilion, if you will. And the thing that I really like about this particular version of Azul is that you're not just gaining points, because that's one of the main things you're doing in this game. You are gaining points in a variety of ways. However, as you complete certain sections of your pavilion, you also get the benefit of extra tiles. So it has a little bit of a feel of progression and engine building that is so core to Wingspan. It has that element in Azul as well. Instead of just getting better at gaining points, you're also getting these bonuses as you complete certain things. I think that's really satisfying about this version of Azul. So that's Azul Summer Pavilion, my number 9 pick for this list. My number 8 pick for games that you might like if you enjoy Wingspan is a game that I don't own, but one that I enjoy very much, and that is Terraforming Mars. It is lower down on this list because this is I would say, a much heavier game than Wingspan. It's not necessarily all that more difficult, but it is more complex. There's more going on in Terraforming Mars, and it's the heaviest game on this list. Terraforming Mars was doing very well as a game. It's still doing very well, but it was doing very well at the time that Elizabeth pitched Wingspan to us back in 2016, I believe it was. And so it was very much on my mind. And when I saw that Elizabeth had this game that was full of a variety of cards that were designed theme first, she would take a bird and then apply a mechanism to that bird that made sense for that particular bird. That really reminded me of Terraforming Mars, because Terraforming Mars has a huge number of cards that you can play over the course of the game. And the theme on those cards is very connected to the mechanisms on those cards. It is also very much an engine building game. You're getting more and more powerful over the course of the game, very similar to Wingspan. So if you're ready to level up from Wingspan, Terraforming Mars might be a way to go, especially if you love science fiction as a theme. So that's why Terraforming Mars is my number 8 game on this list. At number 7 is another game that I don't own, unfortunately, a game that I really do enjoy though, and that is Everdell. Everdell is a beautiful worker placement game set in a world of woodland creatures, similar to Redwall. If you read Redwall as a kid, it's a book series that I really, really enjoyed. It feels very much like Redwall, where you have this fully formed civilization or society of animal woodland creatures. The components and the art in Everdell is beautiful. It also has this feeling of engine building. There's some combos that you can create with the cards, and the worker placement itself at its core is very simple and easy to understand, similar to the core actions of Wingspan. At its heart, though, it is just really a beautiful game, and that's one of the reasons that it made me think of Wingspan. So that's number 7, the worker placement game Everdell. At number 6 is Gizmos. This is one of the 2 games on our website that I say, if you like these games, you'll probably like Wingspan, and I'm going the other way around. If you like Wingspan, you'll probably enjoy Gizmos. Gizmos is slightly lighter than Wingspan, and the core idea in Gizmos is that you are, again, building an engine based on, I believe, 4 core actions, similar to Wingspan. So there's only 4 things that you're doing, and you're making each of them better by applying cards to them. Again, very similar to Wingspan. There is a fun tactile element, a fun component of these marbles that are in Gizmos. So I think Wingspan has some fun components like the eggs, the bird feeder dice tower, the wooden dice, and Gizmos has the fun marbles in the game. So I think Gizmos is very similar in weight to Wingspan, and if you enjoy the engine building and the card aspect of Wingspan, where the more cards you apply to each category of action in Wingspan, you get better at doing that action. That is very much so present in Gizmos, my number 6 pick for this list. At number 5 is one of my favorite deck building games, Shards of Infinity. I wanted to include a deck building game on this list because Wingspan is a game about acquiring a lot of cards that do different things. That's a common element of a lot of the games on this list. I think the art looks great in Shards of Infinity, and in particular, deck building games are engine building games, which means that you are acquiring more and more cards into your deck as you play that improve your engine, improve your ability to do things in the game. And so in Shards, you're acquiring these cards that just make you more and more powerful. And along the way, you are leveling up your mastery in the game, which is a mechanism that kind of triggers a couple different things. One, it makes certain cards better. So if you have a higher mastery level, then when you play a certain card, you might get an extra benefit because you've reached that mastery level. And it can actually lead you to like an instant win condition, an alternate way to win than just getting the most points or reducing your opponent's life to 0. So I think Shards is a wonderful game. I wanted to include a deck builder on this list. It is combative, which Wingspan is very much not combative. But other than that, I think if you like Wingspan, I think you will enjoy Shards of Infinity. So that's number 5 on my list. I have a few categories of things that I wanted to mention here. Let me make sure I haven't missed any of them. Yeah, Isle of Cats is my number 4. Isle of Cats. This is a wonderful game. It's cat themed instead of bird themed, but it has that animal theme to it, as do several games on this list. This is a game that has a mechanism that's very different than Wingspan in that it is a polyomino game. You're applying these tiles to your ship. The tiles are cats themselves in a variety of fun positions. But in Isle of Cats, one of the core mechanisms is that you are drafting cards. So there's a wide variety of different cards that you are pulling into your hand. You get to choose 2 of them, and then you pass the rest to the next player. And so you get to see a lot of different cards, and those cards impact what you're able to do on your turn. You're not really building an engine out of those cards, although some are goals for the end of the game. But you do go through a lot of different cards in the game, so it did remind me of Wingspan in that way. And it is just a really beautiful game to look at and play, and very easy to learn. And one thing that I wanted to mention in relation to Wingspan is, and this is kind of tied to this game and a few of these games on the list, is that I think Wingspan appeals to the collector in all of us because you're collecting all of these birds on your player mat. In Isle of Cats, you're collecting cats, which is really fun, especially given how colorful and fun these cats are in the game. So I think this appeals to the collector in all of us, especially as gamers, in the same way that Wingspan does. So that's Isle of Cats, my number 4 pick for this list. My number 3 pick is Fantastic Factories. Very different art style than a lot of the games on this list, and Wingspan in particular. But Fantastic Factories is hugely an engine building card based game where you're acquiring cards and those cards make your engine better. You're kind of running a series of factories and rolling some dice and converting those dice every round into stuff, points, resources, different things. It feels very different than Wingspan, but in that moment where you're running your engine, it has that feeling of Wingspan where you're kind of going down those row of cards and activating one thing after another. Fantastic Factories has that same effect where you're activating one card after another, feeling more and more powerful the more cards you add to your tableau. So it has that tableau building element that Wingspan has, that engine building element, the progression element, and a wide variety of cards. So I think this is definitely in a certain tier on this list that I think is, if you enjoy Wingspan, I really think that you'll enjoy Fantastic Factories. A couple more on this list, 2 more. At number 2, I have another beautiful game, Parks. Wingspan is a game about nature, and Parks is even more so a game about nature because this is about the national parks in the U.S. So this does a couple things. One, it's about nature, similar to Wingspan. 2, it's an informative game. It informs you about these different parks. Every time I play Parks, I'm like, oh, I want to go there. I want to go to that national park that I'm not as familiar with. And I think Parks does a fantastic job of doing that. So if you enjoy the informative nature of Wingspan, I think you might enjoy Parks. Parks also has the solo mode. It plays 1 to 5 players, just like Wingspan. Wingspan also plays 1 to 5 players. I haven't played the solo mode of Parks, but it has it, and Wingspan, I think, is fairly well known for its excellent solo mode. Parks, other than that, has very different mechanisms. It is not an engine building game. There are like tiny, tiny little elements of engine building, but they're very slight. Mostly, you are just progressing on a one-way action selection track to choose an action, choose a benefit, and use those benefits to eventually collect different Parks cards and some other cards along the way and to achieve some goals. The gameplay feels very different than Wingspan, but I think that's okay, that you have a game that feels different, but also has a similar table presence and has all these other commonalities that I've mentioned. Parks is a wonderful game. I love this game, and I think if you enjoy Wingspan, you'll enjoy Parks as well. My final game on this list was a little surprise to me, but I think it belongs here. It's the most recent play of any game on this list, but it really reminds me of a lot of the things that I love about Wingspan. And that game is the new game, Honey Buzz. So Honey Buzz, it's a game about bees. Wingspan is a game about birds. So again, nature-themed, animal-themed. The art and production value in this game is amazing. Beautiful components. So many components that feel good to pick up and touch and move around, similar to Wingspan. I will stop shaking this around so you can actually see it here. But this is the box, back of the box for Honeybuzz. It has these big, thick tiles. It has these almost squishy tokens in them. Everdell has similar squishy tokens, but they feel really great here. It has beautiful art, great graphic design, very intuitive play. It's very simple to play. You're choosing a worker or workers, and you're using those workers to gain a tile, and you're adding that tile to your hive. So you're building your hive, and when you complete certain sections of your hive, which happens all the time, it's not something that you'll really build up to very much. You'll be doing it almost every turn or every other turn. You'll be completing these sections of your hive, and when you do, you'll gain all the benefits that are part of that section of your hive. There are 6 different hexes that surround it. You can kind of see it here on the box, how this player has completed this section, and so all the benefits around this empty slot activate, getting all those benefits. But in nearly every category, like tableau building, progression, engine building, art, beautiful art, it informs you a little bit about how bees work, about nature, about collecting things. This game reminds me of Wingspan through and through. So if you enjoy Wingspan, I would highly recommend checking out Honeybuzz. I think it's a great match for someone who knows that they enjoy Wingspan. That is my list. I think I covered all the different commonalities, all the different categories here, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy Wingspan, what is another game that you would recommend that other people try? Whether it's a game on this list, if you want to affirm that, or add another game to this list, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks.